Hello everyone. Today's joke of the day is, what do you call two monkeys that share an Amazon account? Stay tuned to find out. Our learning target for today is I can solve a system of equations using the substitution method. Now we're going to remember that a system of equations is two equations. Well, or it could be more, but for our case we're going to work with two equations. The solution to a system of equations is the point, which we write as an ordered pair. It's the point where the graphs of the equations intersect. But we can figure out the solution to a system of equations without graphing them, okay? And we can use a method called substitution. Now, we've talked about substitution before, and substitution is basically when you just take one expression or quantity that is equal to another expression or quantity and then switch them out, okay? So we are going to substitute. For example, this first equation here says y is equal to 2x plus 1. So we can replace any y with 2x plus 1 because they are equal to each other. Okay, so in this case, we are going to take this 2x plus 1 and we are going to substitute it into our second equation in our system for y, because y is equal to y and 2x plus 1 is equal to y. So we can substitute 2x plus 1 in for y. Okay, and by doing that, that eliminates one of our variables in our equation. So now we have 3x plus 2x plus 1 equals negative 9. Okay, and because now we only have one variable in our equation, we can solve the equation for that variable. Okay, so what we're first going to do is combine like terms. So we have this 3x and a plus 2x, and so we'll add those together to get 5x plus 1 is equal to negative 9. And now we just need to use inverse operations to solve for x. So we'll subtract 1 on both sides. Those will cancel out. We'll be left with 5x is equal to negative 10. And then we'll divide by 5 on both sides because the inverse operation of multiplying is division. And we'll get x is equal to negative 2. Okay, and now that we know what x is, we can substitute that negative 2 into one of our equations for x and then solve for y. Okay, the first one is going to be easier to substitute into because it's already solved for y. So we can just say y is equal to 2 times negative 2 plus 1. And now we just simplify everything to figure out what y is equal to. So y is going to be equal to 2 times negative 2, which is negative 4, plus 1. So y is going to be equal to negative 3. And then our solution as an ordered pair is going to be negative 2, negative 3. Okay, so that is the point where these graphs would cross if we were to graph these two equations. Okay, let's look at another example here. Now for this one, we are going to substitute in, again, we're going to substitute in this negative 4x plus 10 for y. Okay, and so we'll take 2x, and we have to be careful here because it says we're subtracting, and then we're going to put this in parentheses because negative 4x plus 10 is replacing y exactly, okay? And this is really like having a negative 1 here. So we're going to have to distribute that negative 1 into our parentheses to ensure that the equation stays the same, okay? So that's going to be equal to 2. So now we're going to solve this by distributing our negative 1, and we'll get to 2x. Negative 1 times negative 4x is going to be a positive 4x, and negative 1 times a positive 10 is going to be a negative 10 is equal to 2. Okay, so then we get 2x plus 4x is 6x minus 10 equals 2. And then we can solve our equation for x. We'll do inverse operations, add 10 to both sides. Those will cancel. we get 6x is equal to 12. Divide by 6 on both sides. So we get x is equal to 2. And then we can figure out y by substituting that 2 back into our first equation. We get y is equal to negative 4 times 2 plus 10. Y equals negative 4 times 2 is negative 8 plus 10. So y is going to be equal to negative 8 plus 10, which is 2 as well. So our solution as an ordered pair is going to be 2, 2. Okay, now let's look at another example here. Now in this one we have y has a coefficient in front of it, so that will be what goes outside of our parentheses when we substitute 4x minus 6 in for y. So we'll get 5x plus 3 times 4x minus 6 is equal to negative 1. Okay. And then we'll distribute that 3 into our parentheses. So we'll get 5x plus 3 times 4x will be 12x. And 3 times negative 6 will be negative 18. And that will be equal to negative 1. Okay, now we can combine like terms. So we have 5x and a 12x, and they're both positive. So we add them to get 17x minus 18 equals negative 1. Solve for x by adding 18 to both sides. Then we get, those will cancel, 17x equals 17. Divide by 17 on both sides. X is equal to 1. And then we'll substitute that back into our equation for x, into that first one to solve and figure out y. So we get y equals 4 times 1 minus 6. Y equals 4 minus 6. Y equals negative 2. And our solution then becomes the ordered pair 1, negative 2. Okay, and we can always check our answer by substituting our solution into one or both of our equations and making sure that we end up with a true statement. So let's do that one. Let's do that for this one. So we'll take that one, we'll substitute into the second equation here. 1 in for x and negative 2 in for y. And we'll see if that all works out. So we'll have 5 times 1 is 5, plus 3 times negative 2 is a negative 6, so minus 6 equals negative 1, and 5 minus 6 is negative 1, which equals negative 1, so we can check it out, and it works there. And we could also do that with our first equation too. So we could do negative 2 equals 4 times 1 minus 6. Negative 2 equals 4 minus 6. So negative 2 equals negative 2, and that works out. This is our check here. And a good mathematician always checks their work to make sure that they are correct and that they didn't make a simple like addition or multiplication error or something like that. So that's what we'll do. Let's look at one more equation here. In this case, we have an equation that's solved for x already. And so we can do the same thing. We can take this x equals y plus 2 and just substitute the y plus 2 in for x instead of in for y. So we'll actually find y first in this case. So we'll take 3 times y plus 2 minus y equals 6. And then we'll distribute the 3 here. 3y plus 3 times 2 is 6 minus y equals 6. 3y can be combined with this minus y. So we'll get 2y plus 6 equals 6. And we can solve for y by subtracting 6 on both sides. We get 2y is equal to 0. Divide by 2, divide by 2. That is possible, so we get y is equal to 0 divided by 2, which is equal to 0. Okay, so in this case we know y first, so we'll substitute that back into our second equation to solve and figure out what x is. So we get x is 0 equals 0 plus 2, x equals 2. Now be careful, we solved this in a different order, but our solution should still be written in the form of x, y. So we'll put x first, which is 2, and y second, which is 0. And so our solution is the point 2, 0. All right, so for today's joke of the day, what do you call two monkeys that share an Amazon account? Prime mates. Thanks for watching and have a great day.